January ended up being a really exciting month for our budget as we had some extra income come in from the stimulus and we even reached some big financial goals. So today I'm breaking it down to show you our actual household budget for January 2021. Hey guys, I'm Marissa and welcome back to my channel. Here on my channel we talk about life and money and how you can enjoy life while still accomplishing financial goals. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, then definitely scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any new videos. Today I'm sharing with you our actual household budget for the month of January, but before we get into it, I want to let you know that the budget template I am using is actually one that you can get yourself on my shop. So I will have a link to it down below and you can check it out there. It's an instant download. It works in Excel, Google Sheets, Numbers, whatever platform you're going to use. So January ended up being a really exciting month for us. We've received some stimulus money, and without further ado, let's just get into it so I can show you how our budget turned out this month. So this first screen section that we have in our budget is our income. So I have Jacob's income and my income individually blocked out, but I do show you my business income. That's everything that I do here on YouTube. This month I paid myself a salary of $6,000. And then we also received some additional income, which I have labeled here as other, and that was our stimulus money that we got at like the very beginning of January. So I live in Portland, Oregon with my husband Jacob and my 8-month-old son Peter. And he was born in 2020. So the stimulus money that we received $1,200, and that was basically just for two of us, like a married couple, because when they were determining how much everyone should get for stimulus, they were looking at everyone's 2019 tax returns, and in 2019 we didn't have a baby yet. So I anticipate that when we file our taxes here soon, we will get the money that we would have received for having our son Peter. So we did receive $1,200, and I do realize that we should have received more because we have a child, but we should just receive that later. The next line item that we have here is mortgage carryover, and this has just basically been because we've been working on paying off our mortgage early. That's like a financial goal that we're working on right now, and this was just money that was left over from last month, and I couldn't make an extra payment on the mortgage, so I transferred it over to hold on to it for this month and use that for an extra payment. So our total household income was $80 to $43.98. So you guys probably can tell that the income that my husband and I took home was very minimal. So my husband does work a full-time job in marketing, but I am excited to share with you guys that he actually just got a new job, which is really exciting. So he hasn't started yet, but he's going to start mid-February, which also comes with a pay raise. So I'm excited to budget a little bit differently here soon. But for Jacob, we've been on the high deductible health plan, which the awesome benefit to that is having an HSA, a health savings account. And there is a limit as to how much you can put in this health savings account, which is $7,200 for 2021. And so we've actually been maxing it out at the beginning of the year. Part of that is always the thought of, well, maybe if he gets another job, like it would be best to just get the HSA taken care of at the beginning of the year. So that was one reason why we wanted to get it taken care of at the beginning of the year. But also it's just nice to make the sacrifices for a couple months to not really take home anything, and then for the remaining months of the year, our take-home pay is a lot higher. So that's why we decided to max out the HSA at the beginning of the year, and it all worked out because now with Jacob's new job, we are actually moving to a PPO plan. That's the only option. I really do love the high deductible health plan because of the HSA, but it really worked out perfectly because now we will have maxed out the HSA, but now moving to a PPO. And even with this new company, it turns out that the monthly premiums for insurance are actually going to be lower than they were for the high deductible health plan, which is awesome. So that being said, Jacob didn't really take home any money because we've been maxing out the HSA as much as possible. And then my income that I have here, I do work for an employer at 5 hours a week, and so that's my little bit of income that I have, and then everything else you see is for my business. Okay, that was kind of a long explanation for the income side of things, but I think that by March we should be settled into our new income and routine for that. So these next couple months are just going to be a little funky, but we're really excited about Jacob's new job, and I'm really proud of him and excited about it. So next we have is all of our expenses. So we use a zero-based budget, which means all of our income equals all of our expenses, or money out, savings, and everything. So first we have our expenses, we have our tithe. So we are Christians and we believe in giving to our church and other organizations. So we had budgeted $782 18, and we actually gave $7.85. So this is to our church, local church. We also support 2 children with Africa New Life, and we support 2 children in Rwanda, so that is $78 a month. And then we support an additional missions organization at $40. Next we have is our mortgage. This is our standard mortgage payment at $23.9860. And this covers everything: principal, interest, PMI, taxes, insurance, the whole thing. Next we have is HOA. So we are in a neighborhood with an HOA, and it is what it is. So that is $121.46 each month. Next we have is water and sewer, and that was $87.93 for January. And then natural gas at $78.78. And also natural gas is what we use to heat our home and also like hot water and everything. So that is all natural gas. Next we have is trash. Our trash gets paid every other month, and this month wasn't a trash month. Next we have is electric at $51.25. And electric is just going to be all of the lights that we have turned on and anything that gets plugged in. Then we have internet. Our internet's been a little funky because we had like a 1-year promotion and then it ended, but then I was able to renegotiate it down. So these next few months are going to be a little wonky with internet, but we budgeted $69.95 because that was the new price it was going up to, but it was $49.21. Then we have phones. So this was a large cost this month. Initially, our phones usually cost around like $115 a month, and that's for my cell phone and Jacob's. But we actually just moved Jacob to a different phone plan and got him a new phone, traded in his old one, got a new one. So everything costs a little bit more. So we paid for $58.63 for the new phone line, like all of the stuff. So there were just some upfront start costs, but we anticipate the monthly cost of his phone to go down, which is exciting. Next we have is insurance. This is car insurance for our 2013 RAV4 and Corolla, and that was $112.66 this month. Next we have is life insurance at $52.89. So we have term life insurance. We have a policy on myself and my husband Jacob, and that is just a like 25-year term. Next we have is groceries. We budgeted $350, but we actually spent $200.17. So we were quite under on groceries this month, but you'll see where that kind of nets out. But one thing that we didn't do was go to Costco this month. So I anticipate in February it'll definitely be a lot higher because we didn't go to Costco. So we usually spend about $50 a week like at Kroger, which is called Fred Meyer here in Portland. So that is about, $200 for the month. But yeah, we didn't get to Costco this month, so I know that that'll go up. Next we have is eating out, and oh my gosh, we did a lot of eating out this month apparently. We budgeted $100 and we actually spent $283.74. That was so much. We did like a few meals with family and stuff, so yeah, that ended up going up. We actually haven't like sat down at a restaurant. I've mentioned that we haven't been to a restaurant in almost a year, and right now in Portland, restaurants are only open for like outdoor dining, and I'm sorry, but I don't want to sit outside and eat in January in Oregon. So I'm hopeful that maybe come like March, when the weather's like a little bit nicer, I'll totally love to like sit out on the patio and like eat out. But all of this has just been takeout or like curbside pickup from restaurants. And also I feel like this is a little bit higher because like during this time, whenever we do like some sort of pickup from a restaurant, I want to be like extra generous and give a good tip. So that's why this has been a little higher, and that's okay. Okay, next we have is gas. We budgeted $40 and we actually spent $28.27. We both work from home and often don't go anywhere, so that's why this is so low. Next we have is Costco, and we were budgeting $60 for our Costco membership because it was due in January, but we haven't been to Costco to actually pay it, so we haven't paid it yet, so I'll move that to February's budget and we'll get that paid then. Next we have is miscellaneous, and I'm shocked on this too. We budgeted $100 and we actually spent $56.12, so that was definitely a lot lower. And then we have our Peter fund. So my son Peter, who's 8 months, we've decided to save $50 a month into a brokerage account for him. And this way, like down the line, hopefully we will be able to gift him money to help with a car, his first car, and then also like a wedding, and maybe even help with the down payment on a house. I don't know. So it'd be really great to be able to do that. So we've decided to put $50 a month into that account. Next we have is our Roth IRA. So initially I was planning to put $1,000 each month into our Roth IRAs, and that way we would be fully funded with those throughout the year. But I decided to just go ahead and fully fund it at the beginning of the year. And so we put $12,000 to our Roth IRAs this month. And you'll see how we are able to do that later on here in the budget. So next we have is college. We have a 529 plan for our son Peter, so we put $200 a month into that 529 plan. Next we have is extra mortgage. So like I've shared, this is the other big goal that we're working on. And so we had budgeted $560.25 to make an extra principal payment on our mortgage, and we put $550 to that this month. So we currently have PMI on our home, like I said, and we would really love to get rid of PMI, but also I think that there's just some sorts of security that comes with not having a mortgage payment. So I recently did a video talking about our reasoning for doing this, so I'll leave that up above so you can check it out. But yeah, we're really excited to be working on this goal a bit more. And the next line item that I have is mortgage carryover, and basically this is where every extra penny in our budget is going right now, to mortgage carryover, and this is how much more I'll apply to our payment for next month. With the way our bank works, they literally just changed it, but I can't log on and make an extra principal payment to the mortgage, which I find to be absolutely ridiculous. So I have to literally call and tell them how much money I want transferred. So I'm only going to do that once a month. So that's why I have this carry over to next month, because I don't want to, call them multiple times to make another payment, which is unfortunate, and I hope they'll change that soon. So as a total, we spent $17,808. Obviously $12,000 of it was to the Roth IRAs, so that was quite large. So now to show you our savings section of the budget, and I love this part of the budget because this is like all of the fun things that we're working on saving for in our budget. So the first thing that we have is our emergency fund. So I technically took $11,000 out of our emergency fund to be applied towards the Roth IRAs, and here's why. We have had $25,000 in our emergency fund, which is over 6 months of necessary expenses, and I felt really comfortable with that. But I then have learned that you can actually withdraw contributions to your Roth IRA without any sort of taxes or penalty, and that's only contributions. That is not like the growth that would happen on the Roth IRA, but just simply the contributions. So I don't ever want to touch the Roth IRA. I don't want to use that as an emergency fund, but just knowing like we still have $14,000 in an emergency fund, and if it was a true emergency, I technically could pull the money out of the Roth IRA if needed. Again, I do not want to do that, and I'm not using my Roth IRA as a specific emergency fund, but I felt okay with taking $11,000 out of it, because I still could access it out of the Roth IRA if I needed to. So going forward, we plan to, instead of putting $1,000 to the Roth IRA, now that we have it fully funded, we're just going to put $1,000 back into our emergency fund every month. So next we have is Jacob. Jacob gets $150 of personal spending money each month, and he ended up getting additional money that he deposited from like Christmas. He got some cash for Christmas, so he added $61.86, and so he now has $117.70 in his fund. Next, I get $75 of personal spending money. I spent $55 this month, and so I now have $635.79. Next we have is extra giving. So we put $50 a month into an extra giving fund, and this allows us to say yes to additional giving opportunities if they come up, and I've loved having this sinking fund in our budget. So we didn't spend anything on it this month, so we now have $80.40. Next we have is gifts. We started a gifts fund this year in our sinking funds. I actually have done a video talking all about our sinking funds. I will leave a link to that video up above, and that'll help answer any sort of questions that you may have regarding sinking funds. But we did $50 a month now to gifts, and so that is now at $100. Next we have is vacation, and we are putting $400 a month into vacation. Mind you, we don't have anything planned. We were planning to go to Hawaii in May, but we were planning to go to the island of Kauai, and they have a lot more strict quarantine regulations, which I don't want to go on vacation and then have to quarantine. So I think we're just gonna wait and see, and hopefully we might be able to go in like the fall or something. So now we have $28.76 in the vacation fund, and the reason why I'm still saving for vacation, even though we don't have anything coming up, is that I want to have the freedom to be able to go on vacation whenever we feel comfortable and ready to go on vacation. Next we have is Christmas. So we actually ended up with more money in the Christmas fund than we needed. So I took money out of it to be able to zero it out. We also then spent $270 on one last gift for Christmas 2020. We ended up buying it in January, so we spent $270. So we've decided to put $100 a month into the Christmas fund. So starting now in January, we now have $100 in our Christmas fund. Next we have is medical. Since we are on the high deductible health plan and with the HSA, we were deciding that we wanted to not touch the HSA, but instead just save money towards medical costs and be able to use that to cover any sort of medical expenses that might come up. So we are putting $100 a month into a medical fund. Now I may reevaluate this now that we are back on a PPO. I think it's still valuable to have, but I might reduce it down to like $50 because we're not going to have any sort of out-of-pocket large medical costs like we would have had to with the high deductible health plan. So now we have $100 in medical. Next we have is car maintenance. We have a car maintenance fund we put $75 a month into, and this is what we can use to cover any sort of car repairs that come up. We ended up spending $15.91 on something for car maintenance, and so we now have $162.67. Then we have household. We are putting $375 a month into our household maintenance fund to cover any sort of repair that we may need to cover with our home. Thankfully, our home is newer, so we haven't had a lot of things that we need to necessarily repair, but we did spend $38.94 on a little house project, so we now have $22.84 in this fund. I kind of look at this as like our house emergency fund too, because if something big happened to our house and we needed to cover, then it's nice knowing that we have the money here. Next we have is our household fund. So we put $100 a month into a household fund, and this covers things like toilet paper, paper towels, soap, like any sorts of things like that. This month we actually spent $171.20, and actually some of it we are going to return. So this fund is currently negative at $41.22. So I talk about this in that sinking fund video that I mentioned, but the way that I work our sinking funds is I have the grand total of everything in one savings account, and I use my budget spreadsheet to be able to see how much is in each fund. So just because one account is negative doesn't mean that like my bank account balance is negative, because the net of them all is positive. So next we have is baby. We put $100 a month into a baby fund to cover any sort of baby related expenses for our son, like diapers, toys, baby supplies, like anything like that, clothing. And this month we spent $142.88. We ended up buying his next size up like car seat, which is crazy. And I know we're not going to need it for a few months, but I decided to get it a little bit early, and we decided on the Nunarava, if anyone cares, but I think that it'll be great. We had some gift cards that we were able to use, so it really helped reduce the price, but that's why we had a higher month in baby costs. So now we have $93.32 for baby fund. So that is our total budget. As you can see, our total out is $82.4398, as is our income. And I have this section here of the budget, like the difference should be zero. And basically this formula is set up to make sure that you have accounted for all of the money in your budget. And here we have. So our zero-based budget is balanced. So now to show you guys our net worth update, which I'm excited about. And as we are working on investing and also paying down our mortgage balance, it's really fun to watch our net worth increase. So the first line item that we have is total retirement. This month we put almost $13,000 total into retirement. Obviously $12,000 was from the Roth IRA. So our ending balance is $89,377. So I'm hoping that we'll hit $100,000 this year in 2021, which would be awesome. Next we have our house. Our house value actually went up a little bit. It's now at like $482,000. And I just tracked this through Zillow, which I know isn't the most reliable source, but it at least gives me some sort of basis. Next we have is our emergency fund. Since I took that money out, we do have this money in a high yield savings account. So I just transferred the money out of the high yield savings account and to our Roth IRAs. So that money there is $11,216. Next we have is all of our extra cash sinking funds, and that is at $6505.98. And then we have Peter's 529, his college savings plan, which is at $1894.91. Next we have is Peter's brokerage account. So that is at $3,466.25. Like I said, that's the account that we put $50 a month into. We also have used some of that as our emergency fund because I had to have $3,000 to open that account. So I just took $3,000 of our emergency fund, but there, and again, if it was a true emergency, if we needed it, then I could take that money from there. So I don't love that my emergency fund is like spread out through all these different accounts, but soon we're going to be back to a standard emergency fund. So that being said, we have like, over $11,000 plus all of our sinking funds right now that are sitting there in just like straight up cash that if we needed it, we have it. So next we have is stocks. We have now $16.39 in just regular single stocks. Then we have our HSA, so we've been working on fully funding it. So we now have $52.14.78 in the HSA. Next we have is the Corolla, and that has actually gone down in value. I used Kelley Blue Book to look at the value of these. So we lost like $220 in value on the Corolla, and then we lost $429 on the RAV4. This is why I do not love the idea of getting a car loan, because you're taking on debt to be able to cover a depreciating asset. So we have $623,000 in assets, which are things that we own. And the only thing that we have as a liability or thing that we owe money on is our mortgage, which is now down to $391,217. We had a decrease of $1,231 this month in our mortgage balance. So our overall net worth is $232,000 about, and we had an increase of over $12,000 to our net worth this month. So I created this additional line item because once we reach 20% equity in our home, we can drop PMI. We have to pay for an appraisal and then we can drop PMI. So right now our house equity is almost 19%, but that's based off of the Zillow value, which I don't trust that much. I think that I'll wait until like around 25% equity before I ask for an appraisal, just because I want to make sure that we're not going to pay for the appraisal and then have it not come out in our favor. I've also talked to our real estate agent and she kind of ran some comps and it might be a little bit lower than that as well. So hopefully soon enough we'll be able to get out of PMI. It's only $95 a month for us, but again, it would be nice not to pay for. So that is our net worth update and our budget update for the month of January. I feel like this video was really long, but if you guys got to the end here, let me know what is one awesome thing that happened for you in the month of January for your budget. And don't forget, if you want to get this budget template, it's available on my shop and I will have a link to it down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any new videos, and I'll look forward to seeing you in that next one. Bye.